Hi Year 5, it's me again with the Jamie Drake equation, and this is chapter 18. Sitting on the side of the stage next to Mrs. Solomon and Mr. Hayes, I look out at the rest of the school. The hall is packed, every class sitting cross-legged on the floor while the teachers huddle round the edges. It's easy to spot my class sitting halfway down on the right. In their alien costumes, they look like a band of extraterrestrial bounty hunters who've beamed down to school by mistake, marooned in by a sea of royal blue school uniforms. In the front row, the littlest kids are bouncing up and down with excitement, pointing up at the stage as they talk amongst themselves. But I'm not the person they're excited to see. He's on the huge projector that has descended down from the ceiling to fill most of the stage. I glance up to see my dad floating on the ISS. Hello, Austin Park Primary. This is Commander Dan Drake, and I'd like to welcome you all aboard the International Space Station. Everyone starts clapping and cheering, their excited whoops filling the hall with noise. I didn't know any of this was happening until I got to the school hall. Hayley Collins was waiting for me there and explained how Dad was feeling bad about missing my birthday on Friday, so they'd set up this live link as a birthday surprise. Raising his hand, Mr. Hayes gestures for quiet. So, the head teacher says, speaking into the microphone, who's got the first question for Jamie's dad? A forest of hands shoots up across the hall. Your class teachers have all but been given roving microphones so that Commander Dan Drake can hear your questions. So if you've been picked to ask a question, wait till you've got hold of the microphone before you start to speak. Mr. Hayes drops his gaze in the front row. There is a little kid with black curly hair looking like he's trying to pull his own arm out the socket, thrusting his hand as high as it will go in his desperate bid to get picked. Let's start with a question from Miss Brightman's class. Harrison, isn't it? As his face lights up with excitement, the boy nods his head as Miss Brightman rushes to hand him her roving microphone. Don't forget, it's a long way up to the ISS, so speak as loudly and clearly as you can. Harrison wraps both his hands around the microphone, staring up in wonder at my dad on a projector screen. That's when I recognise this little kid. It's the baby alien boy who stopped me in the corridor on Monday morning, and I instantly know what question he's about to ask. How do you go to the toilet in space? Everyone starts laughing, even Mr. Hayes. There's a 2-second delay and then Dad joins in too. That's a very good question, Harrison, he says, trying to pretend he hasn't been asked this a million times already. Dad lets go of the microphone for a few seconds, letting this float in front of him. As you can see, the microgravity up here can make going to the toilet a little tricky. Luckily, the toilets on the ISS use suction, a bit like your vacuum cleaner at home, to make sure we don't end up with any unpleasant floaters. Dad grabs hold of the microphone again. But on my spacewalk tomorrow, I'll be wearing maximum absorbency underpants, just in case I need a wee. I sink down in my chair as everyone laughs again. Now the whole school knows that my dad will be wearing a space nappy tomorrow. Luckily, that's the only question about Dad's toilet habits as Mr. Hayes fields the questions from the rest of the school. What's it like being weightless all the time? What do you eat and drink on the space station? What can you see out the window right now? And Dad answers them all, talking about how great it is to be in space and showing off some of the cool tricks he can do in microgravity along the way, like spinning a space somersault, drinking water droplets out the air, and playing with the yo-yo that I bought him for Christmas. Let's take a couple of questions from Jamie's classmates now, Mr. Hayes says, his gaze landing on the alien outpost of Class 6. What do you want to know, Aaron? Aaron lowers his Dalek plunger as our teaching assistant, Miss Tyler, hands him a microphone. What would happen if you forget to put your spacesuit on before your spacewalk tomorrow, he asks. There's the usual 2-second delay before Dad begins his reply. Well, he says, my spacesuit is really more of a spaceship. It's called an Extravehicular Mobility Unit, or EMU for short. The life support backpack gives me 8 hours of oxygen, and the rocket propulsion system of the Advanced Man Manoeuvring Unit that fits over the EMU will transport me safely to the high orbit of the Lux Orterna launch platform. Inside my helmet, there's a communication system that lets me talk to Mission Control, and a built-in video camera that lets them see exactly what I'm doing. But what would happen if you forget to put it on? Aaron whispers, the egg whisk stuck to his head wobbling as he keeps a tight hold of the microphone. There's a burst of static as Dad and Aaron's voices overlap, which gives Miss Tyler the chance to wrest the microphone out of his grasp. Then Dad's voice fills the hall again. Well, space is a very dangerous place. There's cosmic radiation to contend with. The temperature can veer from 120 degrees Celsius to minus 150 degrees in the shade. And without any air to breathe in the vacuum of space, I'd probably suffocate in about 15 seconds flat. I shift uneasily in my seat, suddenly wishing I was anywhere but here. Let's have another question, Mr. Hayes says brightly. What do you want to ask, Araminta? Taking the phone in her little claw, Minty fixes my dad with a bug-eyed glare. Can I go on one of the light swarm spaceships, she demands. I want to meet the aliens. Up on the big screen, a huge grin spreads over Dad's face. Looking at the pictures your teachers have sent me of your intergalactic outfits, I thought I'd already made contact with aliens. I'm afraid you won't be able to hitch a ride back on your home planet to on one of our light swarm probes. Dad reaches out of shot to pick something up, and when he reappears on the screen, I see he's holding what looks like a silver postage stamp in the palm of his hand. I recognise this immediately as one of the light swarm probes. You see, these tiny spacecraft are only 1 centimetre long, and there's just no space for anyone to hitch a ride. With a delicate touch, Dad slides out a tiny black chip from the heart of the probe. It looks just like any SD card you find inside your phone. This wafer-sized chip weighs less than a gram, but contains all of the probe's cameras, its communication systems, and the power source. When I reach the Hab Zone module of the Lux Alterna launch platform, I'll make sure that all these chips are fitted to the light swarm probes before I press the button to send them on a 108 trillion kilometre trip to Tau Ceti. The school hall is silent now as everyone stares at the interstellar spaceship that fits inside the palm of Dad's hand. Of course, it's not just my spacewalk that I've got marked on my calendar tomorrow, Dad continues, placing the probe out of shot. There's another reason that it's a special day. As he reappears on the screen, I can see he's holding a gift-wrapped box. I think there's just time for one final question. This is my cue. Hayley has explained everything to me, and now she's standing in the wings on the other side of the stage, holding the same gift-wrapped box in her arms. As Mr. Hayes hands me the microphone, I know exactly what I'm supposed to say. The words are written down on a piece of paper, just in case I forgot. Hey Dad, it's Jamie. What have you got me for my birthday? Then Dad's going to wish me happy birthday for tomorrow, and Hayley will walk out to give me my birthday present. But when she saw how worried I was looking, Hayley couldn't stop herself from telling me what's under the wrapping paper. It's a Lego model of the International Space Station and Lux Alterna launch platform. It even comes with a minifigure of my dad in his EMU spacesuit. Hayley says it's one of a kind. It should be the best birthday present ever. But as I look up at Dad on the projector screen, I feel a sudden surge of anger. Is this what life is going to be like now? Sharing my dad with a room full of strangers and getting my birthday present second hand? Having everyone think that Dad's some kind of superhero when he's really just tearing our family apart? I grip the microphone more tightly, my knuckles whitening as I stare up at Dad's smile. Are you there, Jamie? He asks, a slight echo on his words as they fill the school hall. Mr. Hayes clears his throat to let my dad know that the satellite link is still working. From the other side of the stage, Hayley shoots me a worried look, her arms sagging slightly under the weight of the Lego box. A faint buzz from my phone in my pocket reminds me that Dad doesn't know everything after all. There's a lump in my throat the size of a small planet, and as I fight back my tears, I know the question I've got to ask. If it's so great being an astronaut, why don't you just stay up there? It takes 2 seconds for my question to reach Dad on the ISS, so before he even has the chance to answer, I drop the microphone and run off the stage. Jamie! I hear Hayley and my teachers calling me back, and the sound of Dad's voice crashing through the speakers. Jamie, are you okay? But I keep on running, out of the hall and past the empty classrooms, out through the door and across the playground, out of the school gates and down the street, not stopping until I finally run out of breath. I can't stop myself from crying as I stare up into the clear blue sky. Through my tears, I can see the sun shining down uncaringly. According to Mrs. Solomon, the light that's now hitting my eyes left the surface of the sun 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago. That was probably when Dad was showing off his yo-yo tricks in the ISS. Before I told him he could just stay in space if he was having too much fun up there. What is the point of him coming home if he's not planning to stay? I feel my mobile phone vibrating in my pocket, the muffled sound of Buzz's voice calling out to me. I pull it out to the golden spiral on the home screen, spinning frantically. Jamie! Buzz's voice sounds almost anxious. There's a storm coming. With a hollow laugh, I hold the phone up to the bright blue sky. Don't be stupid, I say. There's not a cloud in the sky. But before Buzz can speak again, my mobile phone starts ringing. I look down at the caller display and see 3 letters there. D-A-D. With a fresh surge of fury, I stab my finger against the power button. The ringtone cuts out as the screen fades to black. That's the end of chapter 18. Bye.
Okay, Year 5, so you've just heard chapter 18 of Jamie Drake. So we're going to go back to the character study. I'm hoping you've kept these in your packs. This was the character study that we started a couple of weeks ago when we didn't know very much about Jamie. So you've just heard some more about him, and you will have realised some things as we've been going through the book. So just to remind you, inside is Jamie's feelings, and on the outside are the things that we know about him. So that chapter has just finished. Chapter 18 finishes, and it says, with a fresh surge of fury. So that's definitely a feeling, isn't it? So fury. So he's annoyed, isn't he? He's angry. He's been up on the stage in front of his school. So that's definitely something that we've just learned from that chapter. I pointed out to most of you the last time that we did this that I had made a mistake, and that I'd said he had a brother called Charlie, and he doesn't. He's got a sister called Charlie. We also know things like that he's got a granddad, so you might want to add that if you had that. And maybe the fact that his granddad loves music. So that's the fact that would go on the outside. We've also learnt something now about Jamie's mum and dad, and that's that they're getting divorced. So mum and dad are getting divorced. So we put that on the outside. So again, how did that make Jamie feel? I think he probably felt angry when he found that out, didn't he? He was angry. Also, I think, thinking back to when he was on the stage then and all the people were looking at him, I think he might have been overwhelmed. All this information, all this stuff about his dad, he might have been overwhelmed. So what other things do we know about him? There's things that we know about him at school. So think about, what year is he in at school? What's his teacher's name? What's his best friend that he keeps talking about is Minty? What do we know about her? We know that she's a good artist. We know about her dad, so you could include those things. We also have met a character now called Hayley. You could talk about who Hayley is. So really now, by chapter 18, there should be a lot of things that we know about Jamie. So on the inside of his feelings and his thoughts, and on the outside are the facts that we know about him. So by now I'm thinking your page should be pretty full up with the things that we know about Jamie Drake.